Civil rights and the Southeast today. Build background. After the Civil War, African Americans still did not have the same rights as white citizens. Some continued to struggle to make a living by farming. Others moved to big cities for jobs in manufacturing and services. Throughout the region, African Americans faced segregation. Segregation means to set a group of people apart. Segregated cities such as Atlanta, Georgia, and Montgomery, Alabama, were among the first places where the struggle for equality began. Number one, to set a group of people apart is A. Boycott, B. Segregation, or C. Civil rights. Number two, segregated cities such as Atlanta, Georgia, and Montgomery, Alabama were among the first places where the struggle for blank began. Equality, B. Segregation, or C. Boycotts. A separate Southeast. In many of the southeastern cities, African Americans were denied civil rights. These are the rights of people to be treated equally under the law. Under segregation, African Americans had to be used separate restaurants, schools, and even water fountains. African Americans were forced to attend schools that often did not have enough teachers or books. They also had to sit in separate sections on trains and buses. In 1954, the United States Supreme Court decided that segregation in schools broke the laws of the United States Constitution. The court said public schools must accept students of all races. However, some people still wanted to keep blacks and whites apart. Strong communities leaders would have to keep working for equal rights. One such leader was Martin Luther King Jr. He was born in Atlanta in 1929. As a young man, King went to Morehouse College, an African American college in Atlanta. The civil rights movement grew after a woman named Rosa Parks was arrested in 1955. Parks was arrested because she broke the law by refusing to give up her seat on a crowded bus to a white person. Look at this picture. This is the water fountain that white Americans could drink out of. Black Americans had to drink out of this one. They couldn't swim in the same pools. They couldn't use the same bathrooms. They did not go to the same restaurants. This is Dr. Martin Luther King. This is when he led the march in Washington in 1963. This was his civil rights movement. Civil rights are the rights of people to be treated blank under the law. Is it to be treated kindly? Is it to be treated fairly? Or is it to be treated equally? Number four. What year did the United States Supreme Court decide that segregation in schools broke the laws of the United States Constitution? Was it 1954, 1984, or 1964? And number five. This man was a community leader who worked to get equal rights for all people. Was it Martin Luther King, John F. Kennedy, or Abraham Lincoln? And number six. What was Rosa Parks arrested for in 1955? Was she robbing a store? Was she attending a sit-in? Or was she refusing to give up her seat on a crowded bus to a white person? Sorry. Fighting for rights. Rosa Parks' arrest angered citizens in Montgomery, Alabama. A teacher named Joanne Robinson organized a boycott. In a boycott, people refuse to buy or use something if they disagree with the company that sells it. For almost a year, African Americans did not ride city buses to work or to school. They walked or shared cars. The boycott led to a Supreme Court decision that made the city change its law. In 1956, African Americans were allowed to sit anywhere they wanted on the buses. The civil rights movement brought together many black and white Americans. In 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King led the March on Washington. More than 250,000 Americans went to our country's capital to ask that all people to be treated equally. King made a famous sweet speech about his dream of equality for all people. In 1964, King won the Nobel Peace Prize. 4 years later, he was killed by James Earl Ray, who disagreed with his views. In 1986, our government declared a national holiday in King's honor. Why do you think civil rights are important to all Americans? Do you think we should all be treated equally? When you think of the United States, do you think of people being treated unfairly? Not the same? I personally think our country is built to make sure we all treat equally. How would it feel if I treated one of you guys differently? I try to treat you equally because you deserve to be treated equally. Okay. Number 7. Where did Rosa Parks live? In Atlanta, Georgia, in Montgomery, Alabama, or in Charleston, South Carolina? When people refuse to buy or use something, it is called a blank. A boycott, a ban, or a barter. Number 9. What did African Americans in Montgomery, Alabama refuse to do in response to the arrest of Rosa Parks? Go to work, ride the city bus, or go to school? In what year, due to the bus boycott, did the Supreme Court decision force Montgomery, Alabama to change its law and allow African Americans to sit anywhere they wanted to on the city bus? In 1954, in 1955, or in 1956? In what year did Dr. Martin Luther King make his I Have a Dream speech? Was it 1963, 1663, or 1936? Leading to the future. Today, many government leaders in the Southeast are African American, including the mayors of almost 300 southeastern cities. Leaders of many ethnic groups continue to work together to protect the civil rights of all citizens. They also work to improve the region by encouraging new businesses, improving schools, and promising tourism. And now we have a vice president elect who is also African American. A lot can change. An advisor to the president. One Southerner who is making a difference is Condoleezza Rice. She grew up under segregation in Birmingham, Alabama. She worked hard and did well in school. In college, Rice studied politics and relationships between countries. President George W. Bush chose Rice to be his national security advisor in 2000. She gives the president advice on decisions that will affect our nation's relationship with other countries. She also studies events that occur in foreign countries and how they might affect the United States. This book is old. So this came out when President Bush was in office. President Bush was the president before President Obama, if this gives you an idea. Many years after the Civil War ended, African Americans still had to struggle for their rights as American citizens. In the Southeast, they led protests and boycotts to fight for their civil rights. Today, African Americans in the Southeast are leaders in the government and business. They help make their communities stronger and better.